But this time he was like, I'm really rooting for you.
Reika, thank you for taking the time to be here this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to do this.
And I'm happy to have you. You tutored one of my sons.
Yes.
Right? He just had a baby girl.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was in February the 10th. He had a little baby girl.
Oh my gosh.
Lila, and she's just as beautiful as she can be. I'm so crazy about her. First granddaughter.
Oh my God.
He did that. Lonnie did it.
Wow.
He makes me so happy.
Oh,
He and
time
Yurika,
flies.
Lonnie didn't do it. Yurika did it. His wife.
He did it too.
Yes, he did it too. He had something to do with it.
Time
And she's as
flies.
sweet as she can be.
Oh my
Doesn't
God.
it fly?
Congratulations.
Right. And you are expecting your
Yes, I am.
your fifth.
8 months pregnant. Yes, my fifth. Yes. I don't know.
Do you know
what
if
I'm
it's a
doing.
girl or boy already?
Boy, yeah.
So you have 4 boys and 1 girl.
Yes. This is my 4th boy. Yes, but you know what? It's funny. The girl is the strongest personality.
But that's I think nature's made it that way anyway.
Yeah.
They always say little girl babies are a lot stronger than boy babies. And they start off, and they say boys are. They always like to say boys are more mischievous, but I don't think so.
I actually don't think so either.
I had one woman say to me, it really tickled me once. She said, her boys are so easy to raise because all she needs is something shiny and food. And
Or
they're
a
good
car.
to go. And that's it.
Yes,
But it better be a shiny car.
yeah.
If you do that, then they're good to go. But a little girl's gonna say, well, why is it shiny?
Exactly.
And what's in this food?
Yes.
Little boys don't question it. And
Exactly.
they're just happy to be in the sleep and they're good.
You know what's interesting is like before I had my own children, I never really thought about it, but then I do believe there is a difference between female and male, and that's not like being discriminatory or anything, or I'm not trying to be like women are better or men are better or anything like that, but just each person they have their own personality. These little people have their own personality, even if they come from the same mother, and depending on their gender, they do act a little differently. Like their brains are wired a little differently, and I think that's something that we kind of need to accept. And it's not something that we need to discriminate against, but it is something that is there.
That's right.
Yeah, not everyone, it doesn't apply to everyone, but if you think about it, there is a difference.
Where were you born?
So I was born in Japan. But then because my dad is half Korean, and he experienced a lot of discrimination growing up in Japan as a Korean, so he didn't want his kids to go through the same thing that he did. So he was very adamant about sending his kids to international school. So my brother and I, we were raised completely in an international setting since we were born. Our first languages were English.
Your mother's Japanese?
My mom's Japanese.
What kind of work did your father do?
So my dad is actually a politician.
Okay.
And previous to that...
Here in Japan?
Yes.
Okay.
He worked for Parliament, and
Okay.
he was a member of House of Representatives. And then before that, he managed this Korean newspaper company called the Chosun Ilbo.
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
yes.
so my grandfather brought that into Japan, and then my dad succeeded after him.
Was he the only child?
No, he had a younger brother. Yes,
Okay.
yes. So, so I grew up in a very international setting, and then I moved to Texas when I was in the 6th grade.
And you stayed there for how long?
I stayed there until high school.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I came back for a little bit of high school, and then I went to Sophia, where I met your son.
Right, because were you in the same grade with Lance?
I don't know if we were in the same grade.
Maybe you were a grade lower, because I think
I don't
he's
even remember, because I stayed a little bit longer than I should have.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so Lance was always he was already an entrepreneur in school. He was always a motivation for me. He was such an inspiration to all of our classmates, because, I don't know if your podcast members know this, but he was setting up his own businesses and all, doing a lot of stuff while he was in college. And so, and that's when I ran into you randomly yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, the day before.
You ran into him yesterday?
No,
the day before.
You the day before. I actually saw you here.
Where? But you didn't say anything to me.
No, because I was I wasn't sure.
Where were you?
I was in the entrance, and then my husband was here with me, and he was like, oh my God, there's this guy that looks just like Denzel Washington, and he's so handsome. And I looked over, and I was like, oh my God, I know him.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, I remembered I had to talk to Lance about something else. And so I messaged him. I was like, oh, yeah, by the way, I saw your dad.
Because Lance called me last night, and he said, Dad, I think she'd be good for your podcast, too. And I said, okay. And that's why I asked it, and you didn't hesitate at all.
No, because what happened was, interestingly enough, I think like a week ago, I was having a meeting with someone else, and then since I do a little bit of media work and I'm on social media, but none of my followers really know that I could speak English because I do most of my business in Japanese. And so the meeting was about how I should rebrand myself like going forward, and they were like, you should do podcasts in English because that would be a great way to expand your audience. And I was like, well, I don't know really where to start, but I guess when the opportunity arises, I can think about it. And then you talk to me about it.
So this is your first?
No, it's my first.
You heard it here. This is her first. I've had so many people on, particularly females, where this is their first podcast. Makes me so happy. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my God, law of attraction.
Because you saw Aki here too.
Yes.
I think that was her first podcast.
Oh, wow.
That was hers. And then I also had her predecessor, the one, Yamazaki-san.
Okay.
You didn't see hers?
No, I didn't see it.
I think she's the third female astronaut to go in space in Japan. She was on as well.
Yeah, and so you sent me the link, and I was like checking it out, and I was like, oh my God, like what an inspirational podcast. I'd love to be a part of it.
That's good. So let's talk about your childhood. So going through school, were you more academic or were you more sports-minded?
Totally academic. Like I cannot catch a ball to save my life. I cannot.
And you learned this real early?
Oh yeah, because my mom was very athletic, and so she was always like, you should join the volleyball team. I'll teach you. But like, it was just like so apparent that I had no skills when it came to like mastering anything that had anything to do with like catching balls or anything like that. Like my mom's like, this is not dodgeball. Like you're not supposed to. You're supposed to catch the ball, not like run away from it.
So tell me, so academically, what kind of subjects did you like? Starting in elementary school, what did you like?
I was always really interested in politics.
Wait, in elementary school?
Yes.
Because of your father?
Yes, so my dad was very like into academics as well, and so what we would do is like, at night we would have like debates around the dinner table where he would be like, so what do you guys think about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
No, he would not. Really?
Yes, he would.
When you were in elementary school?
Yes.
And this is all in English?
Well, my dad thinks he's fluent in English. But
Japanese is better.
Yes.
Does he speak Korean as well?
He speaks Korean, but we don't speak Korean at home. But so I would talk in English, and then he would reply in Japanese or a little bit of broken English. And then my brother would be there too, and he speaks English too. So we would always have these kind of like debates, like, oh, what do you think about this? Or, he was always really insistent that we catch up on current affairs and what's going on in the world.
So you carried that all the way through school?
Yes. So I always wanted to be a lawyer, actually, when I was in elementary school, because I was interested in politics. So I wanted to work in the UN as an international lawyer. I thought that would sounded cool. So I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And
that didn't continue?
No.
So when did that change? When did it change?
I think it changed because when I was 15 or 16, I was scouted to join a modeling agency. And that's when I started working. So I started working professionally when I was 16 already. And it kind of took away from my academics. And I just kind of lost my way.
But you were in Texas then, right?
I was going back and forth.
Okay, so here is where they asked you to model.
Yes.
And did you join the agency? And you started doing the fashion modeling?
And TV shows and stuff like that. And it took a lot of my time.
Right.
And so academically, I kind of just lost, touch with everything that I had to do. And it was more like, okay, I wanted to go to university in the States initially, but then I wanted to also work here professionally, and so I decided to go to school here.
Because you work for Fox Backstage too.
Exactly. I was
That's
doing the hosting for that and doing like interviews and stuff for that.
Weren't you nervous at the beginning? Because you had to speak. Doing modeling, you don't speak. You just said, did you?
Well, for me, it's easier to talk than doing modeling because like posing for me is just like not something that comes naturally.
So you had to learn to do that.
Yeah, but talking for me is easier. Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking is easier.
So when you got that job to start talking and stuff, that was really nice. So
Yeah.
you interviewed like who?
Oh my gosh, like I don't even remember.
Some actors or
yeah, every actor,
that came here?
movie premieres and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it because it was like, I got an opportunity to meet so many people that I would regularly not be able to meet.
Exactly.
And it was like very stimulating. And then my dad was like, how long are you going to do this?
Well, he was getting a little worried.
Yeah, and he was like, I was like, what do you mean? Like, this is, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And he was like, yeah, but like, I don't see you having a long career doing this, and you cannot depend on, your looks or, you need to be.
You need a steady source of income.
Exactly. And he was like, this isn't something, right now you're young and it's fine, but are you going to be doing this when you're 40 years old? I don't think so. You know what I mean?
How old were you when he told you that?
I was 23, I think.
So you'd already finished college. You'd finished
I'm still
Sophia?
in college.
You were Sophia then?
Yeah.
And that's when he started saying, because you were really getting heavy in that too.
Yeah, and then he thought it would be like a part-time job, but then he saw me like really shifting into that, and then he was like, ever since I was very young, he was like, women should not depend on their looks. Like, you need brains. Like, looks are a depreciating commodity, and like you need something more than that. And he's always been really like insistent on that. And so he was like, Reika, like, you really need to think about your future. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because I was young and I was like.
You said your father said, okay, you have to really start thinking about how you're going to bring in an income. So what did you do then?
Well, I didn't want to. So like, honestly, when I was in my teens, in my 20s, it was kind of like, looking back now in retrospective, I realized that I kind of was like always going the easy way. Like, I didn't want to face my fears. I didn't want to do anything that was too challenging. And I would kind of just like run around from the problem, run away from the problem and not try to face them.
Give me an example.
For example, like I always knew I had a little bit of mental issues. Like, I was diagnosed as a hypersensitive person, and I always had panic syndrome. But then I would never kind of like admit it, I was like, no, I'm fine. And then instead of, battling it or just like, coming to, going to a therapist or, admitting that I had a problem, I was like, no, I'm fine. And, I would go out and, kind of like drink my problems away or, just go always like the easy route. And like if I ever had to be independent, because my dad would be like, you have to stand on your own 2 feet. Then I'd be like, oh, well, I have a boyfriend, like, I don't know. It was just like, I never kind of tackled anything head on. I was really scared. Like, I don't know why.
But explain this to me, Reika. When you said hypersensitive, what are the effects? How would I know that you're hypersensitive? Or how would a person know? What is it?
So like, I'm very sensitive to like very big noises.
Okay.
I'm always looking at like how people feel and like, oh, she changed her look, like, she's looking at me really differently, and it would really bother me, like to the point where like, I can't go to sleep at night kind of a thing. It's not just like, oh yeah, okay, maybe she's feeling a little iffy and whatever. It's like, it really hits home.
Now the noise part, what do you do, loud sounds or whatever, what kind of reaction would you have?
Like, for example, like even if I would go to the movies, like still, like if it's like a really loud bang, I'd be like, ah, like very big reaction to everything.
Right.
And it would really like scare me, and I would like start to like hyperventilate or stuff like that.
Okay.
And I think it was just like a lot of trauma in my childhood that brought that on.
Do you know what the trauma was?
Yeah, like my parents were never friendly with each other. Like there was a lot of fighting going on.
A lot of spirited debates.
A lot, yeah, a lot. you guys staying together unhappy is not making us happy at all. And we always had to kind of feel like we're walking around on tiptoes, and like I didn't want to, upset them or
Did it ever have their emotions towards you?
Yeah, but not in like a violent manner or
Okay.
anything like that. But it was just like, just watching them be so upset, like, obviously it affects us, as children, because we want our parents to be that guiding, rock and just like lead the way. And you kind of look at them like, you look at your parents as like someone that knows everything and, always stable. But that was very unstable in our household. And so it really affected me. I don't blame them. Like, I love you. But
How old were you the first time you got married?
I was 28, I think.
Okay, so in your 20s
Yeah.
up until that time.
And then so what happened was I started my own businesses, and I was doing a lot of
Which was?
I had my own spa, like a beauty salon, and then I got an offer to buy out, so I bought out, and they M&A'd us. So I mean, it was like not super successful, but it was successful in its own way.
And you did this on your own. Did Dad help any? Mom help any?
My dad didn't help me, but I had business partners. So I had a friend that we did it together. And
Male or
then-
female?
Male.
Okay.
Yeah.
He wasn't the guy you married?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I decided to sell that company, and then I got an offer to set up a wine importing business after that.
What made you decide to start a business anyway? I mean, what got into your mind? Because that isn't something everyone does.
Well,
They usually want to get a job.
Well, the thing is, everyone thinks it's like this like fancy schmancy fairy tale, but it's not. It's really not. What happened was like I would go into companies looking for a job, and no one would hire me.
You look too good, and they thought
No,
the staff
no,
the staff wouldn't be able to
No, 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 no,
concentrate.
it's
And they
not
said,
that. No.
nope. They said, nope, we're not going to have our company stop because of your looks.
I wish that was the reason. No, it was more like, because what would happen is, especially in Japan, they would look at your resume first, right? And then when they look at my resume, it's like, okay, so you were a model, you were in TV, you've never really had working experience in like the professional field. You're 25, like.
What kind of jobs were you applying for?
So I applied for fashion, but it's still like I thought, okay, fashion, it makes sense, but it's still a corporate company, and they still look at your resume, right? And so they were like, and so I would never even like go into the interviews, they would never even like.
You wouldn't get that far.
No, because they would look at me and they're like, no, she's not corporate material,
So you're kind of forced into doing
Exactly.
your own
I
thing.
was like, okay, well, if no one's going to hire me, I have to hire myself, right? And so that's when I was like, okay, I have to be an entrepreneur. It wasn't like a very, fancy fairy tale at all. It really was like, okay, I don't have any options.
But you were pretty good with your money, obviously.
I was okay.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I always had like a feel for, finance, because my dad was always very like, strict with, this is how you should invest, or, don't spend all your money and stuff like that. But yeah, so I had like a background, but I was like, okay, just give it a try. And my dad was always like, no risk, no gain. So I was like, yeah, okay. And so, yeah, I started my own business. I bought that out, and then I got an offer to start a wine importing business. But that wasn't my own company. It was under a big company that already had a few restaurants, and they were like, we're looking for someone that could speak English, that is interested in doing like the broker for going to like the States and like Napa wine and bringing that into Japan. And so I was like, okay, I can give that a try. And then I was never really interested in wine or anything like that. But then, after looking into it, I was like, wow, this is like such an interesting field. And so I started that. And then I got pregnant and married. So I was like, okay, maybe it's time to kind of be a housewife. So I
And you
quit.
just dropped it?
Yeah, I quit. And then I was like, housewife time, And then, yeah, and so I just like stopped doing things professionally. I tried, because I think that was one thing that I really wanted to do, because my mom was always a housewife. And so I was like, that's kind of the thing that maybe I should be aiming for. And so I started to be a housewife, and I was like concentrating on, raising kids. And then, you know, stuff happened and got divorced.
How many kids did you have?
At that time, well, I got divorced twice. So
I know, but with the first husband.
The first husband won.
Okay.
Yeah. Second husband, I had 2 kids. And then I got divorced, and that was when I was like, okay, I don't have any money. I have 3 children.
And you hadn't been working any of that time?
No.
How much time between the first husband and the second husband?
Like a year, so it was very quick. Yeah, so like I
Okay.
told you, it was like, for me, it was like, you know, I wasn't independent. Like mentally, I was not independent. I was not there. So I would always kind of go
To find something else
yes,
to cover it up. Okay.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
see. Okay.
Like a nomad, you know, just like finding tents, you know, just, you know.
When did you finally face it?
Well, I had to face it when I got divorced, and I was like.
The second time?
The second time, I was like, okay,
Okay.
I never want to get married again. I was like, enough with marrying. I have children, I have responsibilities, and literally, like, what am I going to eat tomorrow? You know, how am I going to raise my kids? And I always wanted them to go to international school because that's how I grew up. And but I was like, how am I going to send them to international school? You know, and how am I going to pay my rent? And I never really got that far. Like when it was like I never had. I had problems, like monetary problems, where I was like, oh, you know, I can't buy this or whatever. But it was never like a survival kind of a.
Right, I understand. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and
You were never worried about not having a roof over your head.
Exactly.
Mom and Dad would come to your assistance somehow.
Yeah, and then
Okay,
you know,
got it.
and of course I would call my dad, and I was like,
Good.
Dad, I really need help.
And he'd be there.
But this time he was like, I'm really rooting for you. You know?
This is after the second marriage?
Yes.
When you divorced?
Yes.
And you had 3 kids now?
Yes. And he was like, I'm really, really rooting for you, you know? And I was
And
like,
that, you were, whoa!
yeah.
That was a wake-up call.
Yeah, for sure. And looking back, like, as a parent, like, doing that is...
He needed it.
You know, but...
He loved you with all his heart.
Yeah, and it's, like, so hard to do, you know? Like, it's always, like,
His
you're
first
always...
girl? Oh, come
yeah,
on, his
and
only
you're
daughter?
always going to want to, like,
You're right.
protect your kids.
But he
and,
knew
like,
you wouldn't make it.
I guess so. And then he was like,
You know that now. You're a parent.
Yeah, and he's like, you know, I'm really rooting for you. I'm like your #1 supporter. I will support you mentally. And I was like, oh, okay.
But what did you say to him? What did you
I was
really
like,
say?
what about
What'd you say?
what about finance support? And he was like, nope. I was like, he's like, you're gonna make it on your own.
This is on the phone?
I mean, we met a few times for sure.
And he just looked at you and hugged you and said, no, baby.
Yeah, he was like, good luck. You know? And I was like, oh my God.
I love it.
Yeah, but I really needed it.
How old were you then?
I was, 32, I think?
32.
Or one, I forget, yeah.
He looked at you and just said, no.
Yeah, and this is when...
That had to be hard for him, too.
Oh my God, I'm sure. It really, really,
His
it wasn't
grandchildren.
easy, yeah.
No, it's not. No, come on, I'm the father. And your daughter, too? And he's just...
Yeah. And at that time, so my daughter, she was born really, really premature. Okay. So she was like, 900 grams when she was born, like a super, super preemie. And so she was in the NICU unit.
At that time?
Yeah, and so this is like, okay, like how much more can I handle?
But what about Daddy? What about her father?
Not in the picture. He refused to pay for any of the hospital bills. He it was,
Okay, that was bad in
so,
all kind of ways.
So I was like, okay, but you know what? I'm really thankful that happened because, you know, everything really pushed me to be like, okay, I really need to get my stuff together.
So what'd you do?
So I was also hospitalized too because I was not feeling well. I was under so much stress. So I was also in the hospital, but I was like, okay, how am I going to pay for my hospital bills? Like, what am I going to do? I have these kids at home with my mom.
I was going to say, who's taking care of the kids?
Yeah, because I couldn't, right? Because I was in the hospital.
Had she already remarried?
Yes. And so she was like taking care
She didn't
of
have
them.
any more kids of her own?
No.
And she said, okay, so you had, your mom was your backup too?
Yes, for sure. So she was definitely, like, without my mom, I would have never been able to come this far, for sure. She really took care of the kids at home.
So both your parents love you with all their heart.
Exactly, yes.
Dad knew how to be hard enough because he knows he was always taking care of you even when Mommy said no. Mm-hmm. Mom would probably say no, and he said, no, that's my little girl. Mm-hmm. But when you really needed it, he said, nah, you're supported, but
Yeah.
That's
I love
so
you.
good. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. He was like, I love you with all my heart. I was like, oh, thank you.
You'll make it. You'll make it. If you don't, I'll pray for you every day.
Yeah, exactly. You're always in my prayers.
You're always in my prayers.
Yeah, and then yeah. So
Did you cry when he did that? Did you
no,
try that? You didn't try that with him?
No, not really, because I was like,
You know that would have broke him down.
no, for some reason I was like, yeah,
He knew.
you're right.
He knew,
Yeah,
and you knew.
I knew it.
He knew you knew. So
Yeah,
he said, "No, I'm
and
not
you
gonna-"
know what? Like, he supported me so much before. I knew it wasn't like he didn't love me or anything like
Right.
that.
He already shown what
Yeah.
he can do for you, but you've got to do it.
I was like, I need to start loving myself, right? Yeah.
Talk to me.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I was like, I need to take care of me for me. You know, I don't need someone to take care of me anymore. Like, I need to do this for myself, and I need to be a role model for my kids. I was like, I don't like the way that I was living my life in the past. Like, I'm not proud of myself, but I'm still living here. You know, it's not like there were certain times where I was like, I wanted to end it, but I was like, for sure. But then I was like, I can't. Like, I don't even have the guts to do that. You know, and I have kids, I have responsibilities, and I was like, so if I'm going to live, I might as well live life to the fullest and to my fullest potential. If I'm going to do it, I might as well do it, you know? And so it was just like that turning point in my life when I was like, okay, thanks God, you know, thank you for all these trials, and like, you know, it's just, I don't know, it was just like a wake-up call, for sure.
So what'd you do?
So what I did was I started my own company.
No, you're in the hospital first.
In the hospital.
Okay, talk to me.
Yeah, I was in the hospital, and I was like, okay.
For how long did you stay in the hospital?
I was there for like a good 3 months, I think. Yeah.
You were actually committed in the hospital.
Yes. Because I was.
So your mother would bring the kids by sometimes to see mommy.
Yes, for sure. And I would always have to, like, every day go to the NICU unit as well to see my baby girl, you know.
Right. Oh, you're in the same hospital.
Yes, that's why. So that was good too.
Okay.
Yeah. And
but who's taking care of all the bills and stuff? And
well, so I had a little bit of savings,
Okay.
so I would always kind of do that. But then it wasn't enough to keep
keep on
going,
going,
right?
But it was good for 3 months.
Yes, for sure. And then I had a little bit of money left, and so, but not so much. So I was like, okay, I want to start my own company, but I don't have the funds to, you know, have like an office or whatever. So I rented out like a virtual office online. I didn't have the.
Back then, what year are we talking now?
This is what, like 3 years ago, 4
Well,
years
just
ago.
this is
yeah,
recent.
Yeah, super recent. Because my baby girl's what, 4 now? Yeah, so this is like 4 years ago.
You guys are getting some real Nama information.
Yeah.
This is good. You've never told anyone this.
I'm not on a
Not like this.
podcast. Yeah, I wrote a book. A book is out on Amazon, but
Okay.
now
they can buy it.
Like
What's the name of the book?
It's called Manifester, like, you know, manifest your own dreams kind of a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what name do you use? Use
Reika Miyazaki.
Miyazaki.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't use your name now.
No. So when I do
Okay.
business, I go by
Okay.
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki.
Yeah.
So you're in the hospital. You decided to make your own company because you had a little bit of
Exactly.
money left
Yes.
over. And what was this company going to be?
And then so I thought about it, and I was like, okay, what kind of business doesn't require me to have a lot of like startup funds? Like, because if I were to start my own business, like, you know, selling consumer products or whatever, I would have to have stock, right? And I would have to have inventory, and I would have to have the funds to first provide that. And like, just like going down the checklist of things that I wanted to do. And I can't
By yourself, or do you have friends talk? You're talking to?
No,
Are you
by
reading
myself.
a magazine?
By
Were you
myself.
listening to podcast? What, you did all this on your own. You had nobody
Yeah.
that you were.
But I mean, Google. I had Google. So
And you're doing this on your own.
Yes.
Just privately, all in your head.
Yes. And then I was like, okay, what else can I do? And I was like, oh, consulting. You know, I don't have to really have my own products or anything. What I do is I just give advice to other people's consumer products, and I'd be like, this is how you sell them, and then I help them market. And so that's what I decided I wanted to do. And then, and I don't know why, but I was like, because I had prior knowledge to business and like, you know, beauty products and like fashion industry or whatever. So I, you know, cold called a bunch of companies, and I was like, you know, can I help you market? And I'll do it for free. Just give me a margin if it goes well. And then the first company that I tried like doubled or tripled their sales in like a week. after I was like, maybe we can change the font of this and like, change your website up like this. Yeah, and
how did you know to do this?
I don't know. I think it was always like.
And you're just going on your sensibility, which you thought looked good to you.
Yeah, online.
Online, right?
In the hospital, on my computer. No one knew I was in the hospital, of course. So everyone thought I was just like,
right,
out
some
and about.
office someplace or whatever.
Yeah. I was like, oh, can we do this online?
So you did this for first company, and in a week they tripled their business.
Yes, and I was, before when we do like the online Zoom calls or whatever, I would be in the hospital gown, but I didn't want them to think I was in the hospital, so I would like change into normal clothes, to be like. Yeah, and then I kept at it, and it grew. My business grew, and just word of mouth as well. And then I also started to really put more efforts into growing my own Instagram. And so I started to post more real things about my Instagram and like, my journey kind of. And yeah, and then I got a follower.
What journey?
Like being like, okay, I have a daughter, she was born premature, like, I didn't.
But you didn't say anything about your hospitalization.
No.
Right, okay.
But I was like, I'm going to be a single mother, like, let's see if I can make it, kind of a thing. Yeah, and I think that was kind of new to everyone as well, because.
And this is all in Japanese, of course.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and then just like gradually, I had more followers.
How big did you get?
I don't even remember, but
okay.
I mean like a few thousand until a few 10,000, and it just started multiplying. And it was at that stage of Instagram where it was like very easy to grow your followers. Right now it's harder with the algorithm or whatever, but back then it was much easier. And then I would, for some reason, like I would have like famous YouTubers or I don't know, just bloggers like find me on Instagram and they would post about me and be like, this girl's really interesting. And like that would also kind of like, expand my growth.
Right.
And that's where I started. And then.
But did you monetize it?
Yeah.
How'd you go about doing that?
So I would do PR also myself for other beauty brands. So instead of just doing like the back end of things, I would also be like, hey, I have also followers. I have a following, so maybe I can also PR your products as well. And so I would do both. And then while I was doing the consulting and the PR, I would get to know more about beauty products and like what's going on behind the scenes. And so I was like, hey, I can do this by myself too. And so I saved up enough money to start my own beauty brand after that. So
which is?
GENiS, which is
GENiS?
what GENiS, it's called GENiS.
I've seen that before. Wait, that's been out for how long has it been out?
We're going to
2
have our
years.
2-year anniversary next month, yeah.
And what is it? Just
so we do like skincare,
right.
protein, just a bunch of like beauty products, yeah.
And do you source the products? Where do you get your product? Where do you get your sourcing from?
That's all made in Japan.
All made in Japan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just for women?
No. So it's unisex. So we say share
Okay.
consomme, but we say like skincare goes. There's diversity, and so men can also do skincare too.
Right.
And we don't have to use like men specific.
You just say unisex.
Yeah, just
right.
Everyone can use the same thing,
right,
kind of a thing. And so that's our. What happened was because I was always pregnant, or I was always, I've been pregnant so many times, and there was a lot of days where I would have rashes, and I would have very, very sensitive
because
skin.
your body's right.
Exactly, going through hormonal changes. But when you're pregnant, you can't go to beauty clinics, and you can't do beauty procedures
because the inhaling the. What reason?
There's different reasons. I think because when you're pregnant, your skin is super sensitive, more than usual, and so the clinics don't want to take the risk, and they don't want anything to happen to the baby, and there's certain chemicals that you cannot use, stuff like that. And so I was like, well, maybe I can develop my skincare brand based on people that have really sensitive skin, so stuff that works for sensitive skin, and we don't have to. And everyone thought like back then. Potent products or potent ingredients or active ingredients always have a downside. Everyone thought like, if you use something that like, really works well and like, really gets rid of like the wrinkles and makes you look younger, it always requires some kind of a downtime. But I formulated my products that doesn't require downtime. You know, sensitive skin, pregnant women can all use it, and we can all get results, visible results. And that's how I marketed it. And yeah, and it did really, really well. We do monthly subscription services, and right now we have around 35,000 active members in our community. And they all subscribe to our products, and we're always expanding. We're going to have a hair treatment line coming out this month. And yeah, we're just like building our brand.
And what's your goal for the company?
I really want to go global. So right now we're in talks to do some kind of transactions. I can't really say much, but yeah, overseas. And we're getting a couple of offers.
That's good.
So I mean, I think we're on the right track.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's really good. So happy for you. You got married recently.
Yes, I got remarried for the third time. I was like,
that, I mean, I want to justify the fact why you're pregnant.
Yeah. No, I was
legitimize
like, because last, I just talked to you and I was like, I'm never going to get married again. And so while I was building my own business, I met my current husband, Keiji, and he was in the entertainment industry, and we were introduced through a
the group he was a part
friend.
of was very famous here.
Yes, Exile. Yes.
Exile. Yes.
Are you familiar?
Yes, I'm familiar with Exile. Yes, but I don't know which one he was.
He was one of them.
There's five in Exile,
There's like
right?
20.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, they like expanded. Yeah, there's a lot now. So yeah, and then we met, and then I really never thought I would get remarried, and I was really not interested, but he's just like the best. Like literally, he's just like the sweetest, kindest person I've ever met. And and we took it slow at first, and then we talked about it, especially because I had kids, right? And it was his first it would be his first marriage. And he was also, of course, like, if we were to really get serious, of course, like, I really need to think about the kids, and I don't want to just like date a single mom and not take responsibility. And so I really want to think about it. And so we had a lot of discussions, and we really talked about things, but we just clicked. And he met the kids, and the kids loved him.
I think I saw it. You showed me the short
the
thing you did, and I could see the way that your son was with him and stuff, and you can tell.
Oh,
the kids the thing is, kids, I love working with kids because they're so candid. They don't know, they don't have a facade yet. No filter. And they just come straight, they can feel it. They sense how he vibrated.
The first thing my son said when he was like 2 years old, but when he met my current husband.
This is the oldest, the Koi?
No. Yuzan. He was like, he met Keiji, and he said, "Papa,"
Beautiful.
And then I was like, don't say that.
Not yet.
Yeah. I was like, I didn't make him say that. But then, it's just a joke now, but it's funny now. But yeah, I guess they just really clicked, and then we decided to live together and get married, and here we are now, and we have. I just gave birth last year, and then this is.
Look at you. How many more kids do you want to have?
Oh my God, I need some kind of a rest, maybe a little bit of a rest.
But you're able to do both. You're being a mother, and then you're also being an entrepreneur. That is beautiful. Do you ever feel like it's too much?
Honestly, yes. Like it's not easy.
When does it feel hard for you?
Every day.
Really?
Every day is a challenge, for sure. Yeah, but the challenge is not in a way that is just like detrimental to my mental health. It's more like physically, like I don't know if I can wake up. But yet you even came here,
even though you still came here and did this.
Yeah, so if anything, like, a lot of people ask me, like, how do you balance like work life and kids, and how do you keep your motivation high when you have kids at home? It's really hard to juggle both. But for me, like, if it wasn't for the kids, I would not be working. Like, they are what motivate me to work, and they always, I always want to be a role model for them, and I always feel like it's important to be a good mom, I think, and that's, I think, something that my mom really struggled with, because I feel like she was such a perfectionist, and because of the love that she had for her children, she always wanted to be the perfect good mom, and but she never really focused on being a happy mom. And so for me, like, it's really important for myself to be happy and to take care of myself for my kids. I don't need someone to take care of me. I want to take care of myself for me and show them that that's important. And in order to do that, like, I need to set an example. I can't just like tell them that. Like, I need to lead the way and be, So sometimes I'm not there for them. Of course, like, we only have 24 hours a day. Maybe I'm not as there for together with them as much as like a stay-at-home mom. And sometimes I do feel guilty about that. But at the same time, I'm also able to show them a different aspect of being a mom, and that's okay too. I feel like, and because they don't know any differently, because I'm always working, and to them that's like so normal. They're like, "Mommy, go to work, bye-bye,"
What does your husband do?
He works with me, and
he's working with your company.
Yes. So we set up
beautiful.
the company together, and we have our own different company also where we do like medical herb teas. Because what happened was I was going through a lot of hormonal imbalances, and he saw that. He saw how much I struggled with my hormone balances and like panic syndrome. And together we discovered therapeutic methods through herbal, holistic approaches, not like medical, like Western approaches, and like Chinese medicine and stuff like that. And it really, really changed my life. And he was like, Reika, like, there's so many women out there that can really use this as well. And so maybe we can start a business where we can provide services and products that can really help people with their well-being and through a holistic approach. And, going to like Chinese medicine or like holistic approaches, there's a little bit of a hurdle because it's like, I don't really know what that is. Like, it's almost easier to always go to like a doctor,
That's right, yeah.
But there's different alternatives. And so, and then I really felt that, and I really experienced a difference through myself, and my husband saw me really change through that too. And so, we set up a business, and now we have a salon in Ebisu, and we do that together.
What's the name of the company?
Vitolabo.
Vitolabo.
Yeah, like Vito.
Where's it located?
And actually right across Garden Place. So
Ebisu, we're at Ebisu Garden Place, so you're by us? And then they have the French restaurant on the corner.
Yes, and so it's in between there.
Right. It's in between there. Okay, good.
And then so it's like a
every
building.
Day. Right.
And then the third floor we did Pilates.
Oh.
And then the second floor we did like massages.
Is that where they had the boxing place before, and you guys took it over? Because they had boxing.
No. The boxing is next door, and that turned into like a golf studio.
Something,
right?
Right. They were boxing for a second up there. Right.
And so we set up there. And so he retired from the entertainment industry because he was like, I want to focus on family as well as taking care of my own body. He felt like he was, kind of not young enough to keep up. And so, and then he decided that he wanted to start his own business, and so we decided to do this together.
This is his first business?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. And I was so proud of him because, going from an entertainer and like going on stage, it's not easy to kind of step away from the limelight, and that's always a really big decision. And then he went from that, and I was like, why don't you just like rest and take it easy for a year? I was like, just because you've been doing so much and you've always been so busy. He was never home, just so busy all the time touring. And I was like, take a break. And he was like, I think I'll do that. Like, maybe just like enjoy myself for like a year. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. And then he was like, Reika, I really want to do this like holistic, medicine kind of a business. And I was like, really? Like now? Like you don't want to wait? And he was like, no. And then because we were a startup, he was like in the factory every day, like, getting herbal tea and like putting stickers on the packaging.
Is your factory, factory, is it located in Tokyo? Is it close by?
Yes. Like not, I would say.
Say factory, you mean in your office?
Yes,
doing the boxes there, okay.
Exactly, and just like all night, just like putting stickers on the packaging. And he was like, it's like a waste of money to get an employee to do it. So like,
Talk to me.
And I was like, I was so proud of him that he was able to do that and just like switch from that mentality to, being a celebrity to doing that like all in like a month, and I was like, this guy is incredible. And so just like our marriage really is built upon the foundation of mutual respect, because he has so much respect for me working, you know, while I'm pregnant, or, you know, going through what I did. And I have so much respect for him daily, just like looking at him, and like, I don't know how he balances his work life with the kids as well. And taking care of me, you know, that's always the hardest, you know. But yeah, and so just like we really, really respect each other, and
That's
we really
good.
balance off our energies. Yeah, and
That is so good.
yeah, I feel like third time was the charm. Yeah.
I think so. I think you're right about that. Before I end the podcast, and I am going to have you on again because I know you want to talk about women's rights too.
Oh my God, please!
But
yes.
we're going to do that the next time we get together, because it's going to be a good one. Because we heard about your company this time, but I want to have you back again.
Okay, thank you
Most
so much.
definitely, we'll do that. That'll be part 2.
Okay, perfect.
Before we end the podcast, I always like to ask this question. Reika, if you could go back in time to meet the younger Reika and give her advice based upon what you know now,
Ooh, okay.
how old would she be, and what advice would you give her?
I wouldn't tell her to do anything differently, actually, because all the experiences and all of the turmoil and all the mistakes that I made really shaped me to who I am now. So was it hard? Yes. Would I wish anyone else to go through what I did? No. But I'm so grateful for all the experiences, because without that, I would not be here.
You couldn't have said it any better.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Reika. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast, and never forget, it's all unknown, so continue to reach for the stars.
Because you're too blessed to be stressed.